Aw, you're wearing your nerd shirt. Hi, Star Trek
I
nerd.
am.
Hi.
Waving the Star Trek flag. Yes. Star Trek is back. It is amazing these days. I'm very happy
That's
as a
so
Star
great,
Trek
Bob.
fan.
Yeah, that's so great, Bob. Thanks. Okay. I'm being C-wordy. Okay, listen. Hey, how about that Tucker Carlson text? Wow.
Yeah, how about that?
Yeah,
Hey,
it
I have
turns
a
out he's
theory
an
about
awful
that.
person. Who knew?
Yeah, who knew he was racist?
Oh, yeah, I know. And that's the thing about it. He hasn't said much worse on his television show, which leads me to believe that that text message wasn't just him chatting with a Fox producer. I believe that he was working out a script for the next night's A Block.
Boy.
I think he was actually writing something for the show. And because it had that kind of structure, it had that beginning, middle, and end sort of structure. And if you read it in his voice, it really sounds like him. So there's no doubt that it's him. Yeah. It's that kind of whiny, kind of complainy voice, plus the racism and white supremacy. So somehow he can differentiate between how different races of people fight or beat up other people. This is a distinction that Tucker Carlson has noticed. White people fight with honor. Non-white people don't fight with honor.
Yeah. Oh my God. I know. There's just so many layers of awful to that entire thing.
Yeah,
but
it is.
Yeah.
It is. But mark my word, I bet it was something that he was working out for the show. I bet he would have talked about that on the show.
Even Trump, as big as his megaphone was, could not have caused January 6th by himself. That's what I said to Glenn Kirshner.
Oh, yeah.
Fox News was a huge bullhorn to repeat those lies that caused January 6th. So I think that shoe has yet to drop, in terms of liability. But speaking of which, by the way, I've said this before, how many COVID deaths are on Fox hands? Tucker Carlson in particular, and you tweeted American COVID deaths 320 to 121, 400,000 American COVID deaths directly attributable to failure to take action, 180,000, around 40%. The fact that anyone is choosing to vote for this incompetent maniac again illustrates a cultural political rot in this country, and that's just one thing: his failure on COVID, right? Let's,
Yeah. You could start doing that list and we could be here all day talking about those things. But I think it's difficult to overlook that particular bit of incompetence because finally, during Donald Trump's presidency, he was tested with a crisis. Usually that happens maybe once or a couple of times per presidency. He was tested and utterly failed, decided, hey, look, I don't want the economy to crash, so I'm going to make sure we don't shut down or do anything to mitigate this gigantic pandemic that's going to kill all kinds of people because I need to get reelected. And the shame of it is he ended up not getting reelected. He took that kind of a sacrifice. He sacrificed upward of 400,000 American lives during his last year in office. And he didn't even get reelected.
Yeah.
So he took that gigantic roll of the dice for himself, of course.
Yeah.
And failed in that endeavor also. So it's just as obviously it's good that he didn't get reelected, but for him, from that perspective, it was a gigantic sacrifice that led to absolutely no benefit for him.
Yeah.
So and the other thing is we have this unbelievably short attention span in this country. This short term, it's like the Tom Hanks character from Saturday Night Live. We have a lot of voters who are exactly like that, Mr. Short-term memory, where we forget, oh my God, there was that thing called COVID and it killed all kinds of people, and it was mostly Trump's fault for that first year.
Well, I love the way you put it on Twitter. You said 45% of American voters right now. Yes, let's vote for the ungainly dingus who was obsessed with re-election, that he allowed hundreds of thousands of Americans to die from a preventable disease. And this is before we get to the, that it's been, starting to be proven in court after court that he's a lifelong criminal, a rapist, very likely. I mean, it's just, I think, and by the way, you sort of, give a nod to how we got here and how we could continue here is the media. This, you said next week on CNN, town halls with Harvey Weinstein and Bill Cosby. That's a joke, but because they're going to do one with Trump, as if this is a normal presidential election. You were quote tweeting Hugo Lowell, who said, "New Trump will take part in a CNN town hall next Wednesday in New Hampshire." People close to Trump say he's taking part in an understanding that the campaign will get more surrogates on the air. Like, oh my God, here we go, and continuing to normalize.
This. And that's the key word, Stephanie, is normalize, because I feel as though, to an extent, more Americans need to listen to what Donald Trump is saying. Not believe what Donald Trump is saying, but just to pay attention to his awfulness. I think that's going to sway a lot of swing voters, independent voters, to vote for Joe Biden in 2024, and certainly to oppose Donald Trump at the very least. While that said, I think it's a terrible idea to treat this guy, given his track record, as though he's just another normal kid, like he's Chris Dodd. We're going to treat Donald Trump as though he were Chris Dodd running for president. Sorry,
I mean,
that
if
is
he goes
absurd.
to prison, he will continue to run, and we're going to be in another thing of, yes, this is fine. Sure, this happens all the time. I mean, you quote tweeted Ryan, who said, among likely Republican voters who are backing Trump in the presidential primary, 75% say it's because, quote, he actually won in 2020. And you just said American nervous breakdown. What?
Yeah. This is a gigantic number of people in this country. Upward of 74 million people voted for him in 2020. These are people whose BS detector has blown a gasket and completely malfunctioned. It's an amazing dynamic that we see in this country, where some of the most dastardly people, some of the biggest liars and disinformers in this country are the truth tellers. But the scientists and experts and physicians, and they're all in on this gigantic scam. They're all out there to screw over the the red hats, the MAGA movement. It's an amazing upside down dynamic.
Yeah,